Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be walking you through on how to install the Furitek plug-and-play motor system, brushless motor system on the SCX24. The first thing we need to do is remove the ESC. Now I have my ESC on my battery tray, and you'll need to remove the ESC off of your ESC tray in the front and take that out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the battery tray. Then we're going to remove the engine and transmission. There's two screws on the back side. We're going to undo those screws, and then one on the top. We're going to undo that screw, and the engine will pull right out. Just lift straight up on the engine and it comes out. Next, we need to take the drive shafts off the engine and transmission of the transfer case. So we're going to remove both the front and rear drive shaft. And then you should have it looking like this. Now I'm putting hardened steel gears in my transmission, so I took mine all the way apart, transfer case. If you're not doing that, you don't need to do that. All you need to do is separate the transfer case from the engine mounting plate and take the engine out. So we're going to take the front cover off the transmission transfer case. This covers up the spur gear on the inside. There's just a couple of screws we have to undo. Next, we're going to take that spur gear off. Well, first we're going to take the engine out. You need a 1.5 hex head to bit to take the screws out of the engine. The Furitek also takes 1.5 millimeter for the screws to mount the Furitek engine, so you're going to want to keep that handy. Then we're going to take out the other screws from the mounting plate and take out the spur gear. We just want the transfer case. Now we're ready to install it in our car, so we're going to get the Furitek out. This is how it comes in a box like this. It comes with the mounting plate where the spur gear goes into and the engine and transfer case mounts to. Then you have the Furitek brushless engine, the ESC, and the receiver. They're all put together, so you don't need to figure out where the wires go. It all comes all together, ready to go. And then you get another bag with 2 screws to mount the engine, some double-sided tape, and a jumper wire that I don't really think anyone's going to need. I didn't need it for my application. So we're going to take out the mounting plate for the engine and transfer case to mount to. We're going to mount the transfer case on the opposite side of the removable black cover on one side. So as a removable black cover on one side, we're going to mount the transfer case to the other side. And we're going to use the original screws we used to mount the mounting plate back on the Furitek. So we'll get those all tightened down. Next, we're going to put the spur gear in. It goes on the opposite side of the transfer case. It has 2 sides. One side is flat, one side has a dimple in the middle. You want the dimple to go towards the transfer case. Then we're going to put the nut back on, and we're going to tighten that down. And then we're going to make sure everything's meshing together correctly. Feels good. Next, we're going to mount the Furitek engine on. It goes on the same side as the spur gear, opposite of the transfer case. The 2 screws that they send with it, you can strip them out real easy, so be careful. You don't need to wrench it down tight. Just snug it up. Then we're going to put the black cover back on the opposite side. It takes 2 little Phillips screws to go in there. And then it should be all together. And when you're done putting all your screws back in, just turn your engine a few times, make sure everything's meshing up correctly. It's easier to adjust the mesh when it's out of the truck than when it's in. And it should look like this: transfer case on one side, engine on the other. So now we're ready to mount it back in the truck. First, we're going to put the drive shafts back on. Tighten those down. And then we're going to mount it back in the truck, making sure that we clock the drive shafts correctly with the other part of the drive shafts that are attached to the axles. It's real easy, just line up the screws. So the screw on the axle drive shaft should line up with the screw on the engine and transmission on the drive shaft. So both screws line up together. Next, we're going to screw down our engine and make sure it's in there securely, 1 on top and then 2 on bottom. Then we're going to remount the battery tray. Now I cut my battery tray up a little bit. It's got about 1/4 of it gone, but it didn't seem to give me any issue with mounting everything in the back. I wanted everything out of the front so my front could articulate easily and the servo would not hit anything. Next, we're going to use a double-sided tape on the back of the ESC. They only give you 1 small piece of double-sided tape, so you'll need another piece of double-sided tape for the receiver. And then I'm just going to make sure everything's going to fit on the back where I want it to go. And then I'm going to tape it down. And we're going to go ahead and put it in place, the ESC. Then next, we're going to do the transmitter or receiver with some double-sided tape. And we're going to put it where we want it to go. So there's a small on and off switch on your ESC. You can see it, it's on the side of the ESC right there. So don't freak out if you plug it in and nothing happens. You got to make sure you turn on that switch. It's really small and it's embedded in the side of the ESC, so it's hard to do. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to turn on your transmitter. You're going to plug in the battery. You're going to turn on the switch, and then the ESC will light up and it will make a couple of tones. You're going to take something small and hit the bind button on the ESC. It's in the front. It's a real small place that you push down on, and then it'll make a few tones to let you know that everything's bound together. The next thing we're going to do on mine is we're going to mount the battery. So I'm kind of getting it where I think it should go. I'm going to put the body on just to make sure everything closes correctly and nothing's pushing up on the body. I'm going to use some Velcro. I really like the Velcro because it makes it easy to remove and It keeps it in place when it's in there, and then I can adjust it if I want to put weight more to one side or the other. I use double-sided tape along with the Velcro, and then it won't come off. If you just use the Velcro, it's usually not strong enough to hold it in place, so the double-sided tape really helps it stay adhered. We're going to put some double-sided tape on the battery tray. Then we're going to put the other strip of Velcro on there. Make sure it's all pressed down. And then there you go, the battery's mounted. The next thing we're going to do is hook up the lights. Now, to hook up the lights on this ESC, you need a JST 1.25 millimeter 2-pin plug. It does not come with one. You have to get one on your own. I have a few, so I just took one apart, one of the other ends of it apart, and then plugged it directly into the female end of my light lead. And the lights came on. But it takes a 1.25 millimeter JST 2 prong plug. So we're going to put the body back on. Two screws in the back, and it's back together. And it should look like this when you're done. Now, I took some zip ties and managed my wires together. I got my battery in the back, the engine and transmission are right there. The ESC and receiver are in front of the battery. Everything's ready to go. And then we're going to give it a little test. Nice, slow, controlled crawl, buttery smooth. Everything looks good. So the only thing I want to recommend is make sure that your mesh is set correctly between the engine and the spur gear before you put it back in the car. That's very important. Other than that, thanks for watching.